Hey, what's up everybody, Shinmoku here, and today I just wanted to give you my quick first impressions on Dirt 5. Hopefully you are aware by now you shouldn't be buying games as soon as they come out. I mean, there's just so many issues consistently at launch, and I think Dirt 5 is sort of the same way, so let's get into it. So I have a couple of bullet points I wanted to go through. Just real quick, I want to say that I will not be touching on any multiplayer aspects. I don't really like multiplayer in driving games other than driving sims, and where that can be regulated, people can't just intentionally crash you out, or they rather wouldn't because that's not part of the etiquette and so on and so forth. So I don't really play multiplayer in games like this. I mean, I'm down for like cooperative stuff, things like that, and playing with my friends who I know aren't going to crash me out, or if they do, it'll be funny. So no multiplayer here. But let's get into it. First off, I want to talk about the graphics. So the graphics themselves are really solid for the most part. You guys know the lighting in this game is absolutely phenomenal. I've had minimal issues with the graphics themselves, looking bad. I do have to say that the dynamic rendering, where it can render certain objects and whatnot at a lower resolution to up your frame rate. I do have to say, flicking that on didn't affect the frame rate that much, and absolutely butchered the visual fidelity. So that is something to look out for on PC at least. And I do have to say that on low and ultra low, the game looks really terrible. The LOD is insanely aggressive, and it's just not masked particularly well. The lighting just flickers in and out on those settings, so I opted for a 30 FPS lock instead, just to keep the visual fidelity there. And it does have to be said that the optimization for this game on PC, at least, when they said the requirements are very high for this game, you do really, if you want a 60 FPS experience, you need to have a 6GB graphics card at least, and a really decent and modern CPU to actually handle this game. I was very, very surprised. You guys know Codemasters. The F1 games will run on a toaster. Grid Autosport ran on my horrible old Windows 7 laptop at 60 FPS. So I was really surprised the requirements were that high, and guys, they were not joking. This game does not run particularly well if you have a 4GB graphics card. Even if you had a high-end CPU, I doubt they'll be touching 60 FPS above medium settings. For me, to get 60 FPS consistently, I had to lower the render resolution down to like 720p or something. So I just said, screw it, I'll do 1080p 30 FPS, keep that really solid visual fidelity there, and I'll take the 30 FPS. It's okay, no biggie. It does also have to be said that the options are a little lacking. I mean, it's your normal scales, ultra, low to ultra, but it does have to be said that there's no option in-game for choosing full screen or borderless or windowed mode, which was very strange. So you might actually see, I don't know, actually no, I didn't check the video yet, but you might see in the top left that there's the mouse cursor there. That doesn't go away. It, do Alt Enter, F11, all that stuff. It's stuck in borderless full screen, and I can't really do anything about it. So not necessarily the best PC release, and on PS4 and Xbox One, I have to say it doesn't really look particularly good, and it is also 30 FPS there as well. So let's just move on to what's good with the audio. Audibly, the game is just okay. It does have to be said that it is actually a step behind. I don't know how they did this, but it's a step behind the audio fidelity of Dirt Rally 2.0. I think that game had way better anti-lag effects and just exhaust crackle, and the buzz of the engine and the buzz of the entire car and the cockpit it's all much better in Dirt Rally 2.0 and Dirt Rally for that matter. So it's a step behind in that respect. But the music is actually solid. I think it's like good vibes, fun type music. A lot of Dirt 2 vibes coming through from here, which is good. Dirt 2 is my favorite Dirt, easily. And the way the music works in this game is you actually hear it blaring on the loudspeakers when you're looking outside the car, the outside camera, and then when you're on the inside, you can actually hear the music being suppressed from the outside, which I think is actually a really cool little effect. It's a nice little touch. And let's move on to what the physics are like. They're like Grid 2019, Dirt 2 type, very forgiving physics, very easy to correct a slide and hold a drift. All that's very easy, and I think that's a good thing. Just keeping it fun and keeping it accessible is a really good call. I think Dirt 4 had zero identity, and there was no reason to get that game. Just get Dirt Rally or Dirt Rally 2.0. So they kind of screwed themselves on Dirt 4 by trying to make it, I don't know, Dirt Rally with slightly easier physics, basically. So making it just way easier and more accessible physics was a good call, I think. And it feeds into this sort of good vibes, have fun type of vibe this game is giving me. So let's move on to the car list. I think it's just okay. The variation of cars is decent, but it has to be said that there are some core cars missing. I haven't been able to find it, but I can't find a Lancia, Delta Integrale. There are a few core cars missing, like, the Super Impreza hot hatchback version. Just the little things like that, things that have always been there. The game just seems to be lacking, and every class has maybe 5 cars, and there's only like 10 classes, and then some classes only have 1 or 2 cars, or like the buggy class, which you'll see in the gameplay a little later on. It just has a couple of formula style buggies in there, and they're all kind of the same. All that changes is the crappy grade letter performance, which, as far as I can tell, doesn't really matter. The Skoda Fabia, which has the lowest statistics in the rallycross category, and the Ford Fiesta, which has the highest stats, there's barely any difference between them. So what was the point of the performance meter, and why is it just a crappy grade instead of giving me like a number to work off of a la Forza? I don't really know. The car selection is just okay. There are some really interesting things, like the mountain climbers and things like that, but it does have to be said that if we're going for this very, very fun, sort of loose atmosphere, why not just make up some cars like the Crew 2 did? They made some really cool off-road vehicles, I thought, at least. Just have a fucking Lamborghini rally car. Have some fun with it. Why are we making such a fun, accessible, light rally game and then just keeping it strictly real-world off-road vehicles? So I think the game could have benefited by just coming up with some of their own designs. I don't know how that works license-wise. Can you do that if you get the license for, let's say, an Aventador? Can you make an Aventador rally car? I don't know if that's allowed or not, but I think they should have definitely looked into it. Just because everything about this game is very extravagant and vibrant, and I think just having some fantasy off-road vehicles would have been a lot of fun. I think it was a missed opportunity. But let's talk about the story and the progression. So the story is you just work for a dude named AJ, played by Troy Baker, and he's a cool dude. He manages you and stuff. Just like sponsors are back from Grid and things like that. And I think this is what I wanted from Grid 2019. It's a good spine to keep you going and to keep you invested in it a little bit. That's all you really need. You don't need a lavish story like the Crew 1. You just need a good spine to go off of, and that'll keep you invested enough. And of course, the progression, as you saw in the menus, it's just a string of events. You unlock events as you get stamps by placing, third, first, or second. So it's a pretty basic, but still a reasonable system. You're almost never finding yourself having to do an event that you really don't want to do. Of course, that'll happen occasionally, but then all you have to do is maybe get 1 or 2 stamps in a certain event, and then you just move on and you unlock a whole new slew of events that is no doubt going to be more catered towards you. So I think that was solid as well. It does seem like I'm making money a little too fast. Like, I just make a bunch of money and just buy the best car in the next category that I'm going to be racing in pretty much every time. So that is a bit of a letdown. And again, I'm not really sure what the point is of having cars have different performance ratings when they're in the same class, but whatever. So let's talk a bit about the game modes. There's things like the Stampede, which is just all the big off-road SUVs racing against one another. You got your rallycross. You got, as I mentioned, the mountain climbers as well. You got the sprint races. You got some rallycross type events. You drive on ice as well, which I think is really just kind of a gimmick. But I actually really enjoyed the mountain climbing. That was a big surprise for me. I was like, okay, this is going to feel horrible, but it felt really responsive and fun, and I thought that was a really good inclusion. I'm not sure if I've done actually every single game mode that's possible, but I've done most of them, and I have to say they feel what you'd expect, but still solid. Let's talk about the tracks themselves a little bit. I think they're like your typical sort of dirt arcade game affair. A whole lot of banked turns, whole lot of sliding going around corners, and just whole lot of jumps and the like. It's sort of what you'd expect, but I do think the graphics really do help a lot. I know graphics aren't everything, but they really do help a lot sell these environments and just make it a very vibrant and sort of visceral experience. And just some of the firework effects are absolutely insane. Like I was shocked when I first saw the fireworks. I'm not kidding. It really reflects off the entire world beautifully. It looks incredible. And some of the standing water, as you could probably see in a few of these clips, destroys my FPS completely. I go to like 20 FPS, but looks good though. Looks good. So while the tracks I feel are maybe a bit generic in their design, I think that like the environments themselves more than make up for it. It looks absolutely stellar. And speaking of tracks, let's just talk about the playgrounds real quick. So what these are player-created tracks, think like a Trackmania and stuff. They give you a car to use and a track to drive that car on, and you fight for the best time, essentially. That's a really good multiplayer aspect. I like, you could fight against your friends, do this one playground, oh, I got this time, I'm going to beat your ass, bitch. Things like that. And you have yourself on the leaderboard at the end, so you can see what place you are. I'm almost always near the bottom. I'm not sure if I'm just horrible at dirt now, or if people are just giving it another go, and just perfect these player-made tracks. And the player-made tracks are really solid for the most part. For the most part, the highly rated tracks are highly rated for a reason, and they are a lot of fun, and a lot of creativity goes into these, and the lighting looks really fantastic. A lot of these pieces that are strung together to create the roads, they have these embedded lights in them, and the way they shine off the track and the cars, it looks really good. It looks really great, and it gives playgrounds their own sort of aesthetic over the normal environments, which are sort of like really vibrant real-world environments. The playgrounds are like really vibrant sort of artificial environments, and I actually really like that they decided to distinguish the playgrounds from the in-game environments. And actually, speaking of the in-game environments, there actually are a lot of tracks. There are a lot of different locations to visit, which have a certain aesthetic, of course. Norway, it's always snowing. China, you got huge jungles, and they have the basic aesthetic, but there are tons of tracks. There's like I think a few places have almost 10 tracks in them. And of course, the tracks do limit the car class to, some tracks that you can do any car class. Some other tracks, this is only for Stampede or like little Formula rally cars and things like that. But I think that's okay, because there's just a huge array of tracks here. And I think that's probably the biggest upside to this game, is just the amount of tracks, and the amount of player-made tracks is just astonishing. And I do think it makes up a little bit for the somewhat lackluster car list. So what do I think about Dirt 5? I think this is definitely a step in the right direction for the Dirt series, but I have to say, the recommended requirements, the minimum requirements, forget it. You're not playing the game on the minimum requirements. But the recommended requirements are really, really high on this game for seemingly very little reason. The lighting is fantastic in this game, but everything else more or less feels like current gen. So other than the lighting, what am I spending my 30 FPS on? So I do have to say that was a bit of a letdown. The car list is a letdown. The tie-in with Donut Media, I'm sure people like Donut Media. They got millions of subscribers. I think they're completely insufferable in this game. I don't mean to hate, but I thought they were a really bad inclusion. I thought AJ was more than enough to give character to this game. So that was a bit of a letdown, but you can skip all the Donut Media parts. It's not a big deal. But it's okay at the end of the day, and I think the game is solid. I think it's going to last people a long time because of the amount of tracks. The car and track combination amount is huge, and the car and playground amount is infinite, literally. As long as people are making more tracks on the game, this game will last forever. And I think that's a really good selling point. However, though, really can't give this game my full approval. It doesn't run the best, honestly. It'll run at 120 FPS on next gen, which is cool, but on PC, it does have to be said that it isn't running particularly well unless you got a really modern, up-to-date, and very expensive machine. So, with that said, I'll say this game, I would wait for it to be $40 and below. I mean, if you really got to scratch that dirt itch, I mean, you could go for it if you'd like, but I would say that you probably want to wait till it's $40 or below. So that about wraps it up for me. Thank you guys for watching.